Back here on the Right Place, AM 1480 KUS. John Wright with you as we work our way through our 10 o'clock hour. Joining me in studio, nice to have Dawn Taylor here. Dawn, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, you are, I guess you can officially be called an author now.
Yes.
You've joined the ranks. It's very cool. You have an awesome book. It's called Chaunceys Place, 1854 through 2014, A Pictorial History of Austin, Minnesota. Nice long title, but it really sums up everything that's in this book. First, let's start with how would you describe the book? I said that it's a series of essays, remembrances, ramblings in some case maybe. How would you describe the book?
The book is actually a companion book to a video of the same name. The video can be viewed on YouTube. The images of the book each correspond to an image in the video, and the book gives you the history behind each image that you see.
Okay, so anybody right now could go online, go to YouTube and look it up,
yes.
The video?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then, like you said, this is a companion piece. And what I found interesting, not being native to Austin, but have lived here for a long time, some of the places, some of the things that you bring up in here, I've heard little bits about, and it kind of fills in some of those gaps. Is this just from your own personal experience, research? Where did you come up with a lot of this information?
Some is from my personal experience, but a lot of it I did spend hours and hours researching a lot of the businesses and the people that have made Austin what it has become today, from the 1800s to the current businesses that we do see in Austin.
Yeah, and some of it, being a member of St. Augustine's Church, I was fascinated reading about that. Is just the history that's there, things that have happened through the years that if you didn't look back at the history, you wouldn't know any of that happened. It's kind of an interesting history there.
And also the history of the places that people in Austin frequent now. Mm-hmm. The history behind the Paramount, the Tender Maid, Knauer's, Oak Girl Restaurant. A lot of places today that you go to and you really don't stop and think, what is the history behind the people who started that business? What's the history of that building? And I found that very interesting as I researched. I was born in Austin, lived in Austin, and a lot of those things I really didn't know until I did the research myself.
I suppose you had a lot of either aha moments where you're suddenly like connecting the dots that you've heard these stories and all of a sudden there it is in front of you of what really went on.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that Austin's had its fair share of characters through the years too, and so they kind of play into a lot of that.
Right, and also in the book, there is a biography I wrote about the founder of Austin, mm-hmm. Chauncey Leverage. The title of the book is called Chaunceys Place, and that actually was what Austin was known before it was officially named Austin. He is the founder of Austin, and very few people that have been born and grew up in Austin know his history. As I researched, I would find a little bit of his history in this publication, a little bit of history there, and it took me quite a while to put it all together. But our book is, to my knowledge, the only book that has put his entire life story together, ranging from his grandparents in Ohio to coming to Austin, founding Austin, his murder, which a lot of people know about, but they really don't know the details or the circumstances behind that, and the aftermath of Austin, what happened after he founded Austin and was murdered. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty comprehensive biography that I wrote, and I really don't think you'll find that much information in one book anywhere else that exists, now.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting having, moved here well over a dozen years ago now. When you talk to some people, they connect Austin directly to the name Austin, and you don't hear Chauncey's story connected to that. It's like they almost pick up the history further down the line of saying how Austin got its name, and you don't hear about Chauncey and really the development of what became Austin.
Yes, and Chauncey Leverage, he bought the claim from a man named Austin Nichols. So, you assume he named it after Austin, but before that, when people came to the area as pioneers, they would call it Chaunceys Place or Leverage Mill, because he did build the first mill on the Cedar River. He did own the first hotel and saloon, and he did own a lot of property in Austin.
Yeah. What a cool name that would have been, Leverage Mill. It just has a nice ring to it. I like that. We should tell people, too, you can find the book now. You can order it online. It is available around. Where can people find the book?
You can order it online through lulu.com. Locally in Austin, it is for sale at the Philomanian Religious Book and Gift Store on Main Street. And through my Facebook group, Austin, Minnesota, Welcome Home, you can contact me directly, and I can take payment over the phone and ship it out to you the same day.
I'd like to have an email there, too, chaunceyleverage@gmail.com. It's kind of a nice tribute to Chauncey. I like that. Also, people get a chance to meet you. Is Gary going to be able to be here for the book signing, or you'll be doing it?
I will be doing the book signing at the Austin Library Tuesday on June 2nd at 5:30.
Be a great opportunity for folks to come out to see the book, pick up a copy of the book, and learn about just Austin's history. I like in the back of the book, because not being from here, a lot of people refer to different places in town specifically by the old names that the streets had, because some people even realize all the streets have changed. Well, not all, but nearly all the streets in town had different names not that long ago.
Yeah, at one time, Austin's streets had names, like Kenwood Avenue is now 4th Street, and you'll hear Bridge Avenue. And in the back of the book, there is the old street names that correspond with the modern names. There is also a Google map that Gary put together, and if you go to the Google map that's listed in that book, you can locate every location that is named in that book. You can actually locate Chauncey Leveridge's grave, which is in Oakwood Cemetery.
Wow. That's very cool. So I know we were looking at the map one night. We were trying to pinpoint where our house is, and it's like, what was the name of the street that we live on? Because it's not anywhere near what it is now. Because now we have a numbered street, but it actually had a name. And it's fascinating to learn some of that, especially if people aren't necessarily long-term residents. And more so, I think, for the long-term residents to watch the video, see these places, and then also read the companion story, kind of filling in some of the information there.
Right, yeah. And some of the new people that moved to Austin, they might have questions like, where are people referring to when they say, well, just go to Skinner's Hill? If you're local, you know that. If you're local, you know the history about Buffy the Cow. She stood on the top of Ankeny's Dairy for 42 years. And when the dairy was sold, she was moved to the Moore County Fairgrounds. And she is featured in the book because people love Buffy. And I research and I have all her stats in that book, how tall she is, how much she weighs. And interesting fact is Buffy wasn't born in Austin. She was born in Sparta, Wisconsin.
Yes, there's a company over there that makes large fiberglass figures, and Buffy came from one of those. And also, and I don't know how much of the story, it's how Buffy got her name, is a fascinating story, too. Yeah,
and she was named in a children's contest. That research I found in the Austin Daily Herald. And
they had an incredible amount of entries for that. It was just people were really into naming Buffy the Cow.
Right, yeah, and people love Buffy. She's one of the iconic images in town.
Well, you mentioned the book is kind of a support piece to that video. In doing the video, and I know Gary, we should give Gary Colton credit for the video and all the work on that. How did you get connected to it? How did it come to write the book as a companion piece, or was that part of the plan all the way along with the video?
It started with our Austin Facebook group, and that is called Austin, Minnesota, Welcome Home. I started that a couple years ago and was posting pictures of, the old buildings in Austin, or what used to be, some of the current things. And people always had questions, well, the Fox Hotel, where was that? When did that, when did they knock that down? Or when did this building come up? When did that catch fire? So to answer some of the questions of my members, I would start looking things up and responding. And one day Gary said, you know, you have a lot of good images of the old places in Austin. Wouldn't it be cool if we made a video? And so from there, we took out some of the, over about I think it was about 600 images he went through. And he picked out some of the images to use in the video. And the video is actually set to music written by Jack Morgan, who lives in Austin, and performed by his group. So from the video, then Gary had the idea, well, why don't we have a companion book and explain the history behind these images, because people like the images, but they also want to learn the history behind it. The interesting thing about the book, it's not only about Austin, but it's all the contributors in the book are from Austin. They're all call Austin their hometown.
Now, it begs the question, because whenever you do something like this, obviously people will come up to you now and say, well, what about, and they'll give you their memory of place X, Y, or Z. This will continue? Might we see another book, another video down the line?
Well, we're hoping to make another book, another interesting history of Austin that we've uncovered as we were doing research is a lot of places in Austin, all the fires that have happened, and which buildings were destroyed or damaged, how did they rebuild them, and what are these buildings today? And that may be another book coming in the future, because that's also a fascinating history, I think. Yeah,
and certainly, obviously years ago, there was a lot more wood used in making buildings, so fire was probably a lot more prevalent and more dangerous back then. So it's kind of interesting to see how much the city was changed by fire.
Right, because, you know, when I post pictures, people say, well, I used to go to that church, but I remember when it burnt down, or I remember when the Grand Hotel burnt down, or things like that. So I think that's kind of interesting history that people would enjoy as well.
And certainly we encourage anybody who's online, go on to Facebook, become part of your group, because like you said, you're sharing that information back and forth, and everybody's free to be part of that. If they have a memory or even have a photo or a story they want to share, you'd love to hear from them.
Right. Yeah. Currently, there are over 1,300 members in the group, and within the group, there are contributors that come up with a lot of unique pictures of Austin, things I've never even uncovered, and they post them and they'll tell the history. And you know, people say, well, I remember that, or I used to work there, my grandpa lived there. So it is a really interesting group, and new people that come to Austin can learn about the different history of Austin that they may not be aware of as well. So it's a fun group. We have things posted every single day.
Well, and the fun thing about this book, too, and like I said, it's a little small essays or narratives about these different places that you can pick it up. If you have 2 minutes, you can read a couple of interesting facts about Austin. If you have a couple of hours, you can get through the whole thing. But it's just one of those great books. There's great information in here. It's been fun kind of going through this last couple of days.
Oh, thank you. We've had a lot of compliments from the book. We've had a lot of books sell out of Philomania, and they're reordering books every week, keeping up with the demand. And it was fun to write it, but it's even more fun for other people to enjoy it and hear that feedback from people.
It's going to be a weird moment when you've got it all done. Then you have to hand it off and just see how the world accepts your baby, if you will, and see how it goes.
Yes.
Again, if anybody wants to order it online, you can go to www.lulu, that's LULU.com, and find a link to it there. Also, don't forget June 2nd, 5:30 at the Austin Public Library. You can stop down, share stories with Dawn, pick up a copy of the book, and you'd be happy to even autograph it for him, I'm sure. So be sure to take advantage of that. I appreciate you spending some time with us today. Again, a great book, really interesting information, and I hope people search out a copy of it and read up on Austin's history, and look forward to that next book, too.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right, thanks so much for being here.